Wow. What an evolve it was, right? We just saw, in my opinion, probably one of the best evolves yet. I think that this evolve tonight was definitely a good show. For obviously, I am going to change this real quick because it's indeed not the go home show for before Accession. So I'm going to change that right quick. Um, we are 2 weeks away from Succession. So that is very, very good to know. I'm super excited to get into today's review. Obviously, I know we did have a little video today explaining the rivalry between TNA and NXT. If you are watching on YouTube, you obviously have not seen that video yet. That's because it's coming out tomorrow. If you're watching it the same night Evolve went out, so there that little spoiler is. You can watch all these videos live over on Twitch, CZV underscore wrestling underscore 2309 on Twitch. So you can definitely come over here and join us in the Twitch chat and share your thoughts on all the pro wrestling that's going on in the world, whether that's AEW Dynamite that's going on right now. I know that I did skip out on Dynamite tonight. I'm going to watch it after I get done with this review, but I'm not going to rush anything because honestly, I would way rather watch. Y'all know I love WWE programming more than AEW programming, and it's just nothing against AEW. I just have access to the PLEs every show. It's just way easier to watch, so that's why I prefer WWE. But I watch everything. So okay, enough rambling. Let's get into it. So we'll have a little recap of last week to open things up. Last week we saw Keanu warn Brooks Jensen before their number one contenders match tonight. So Brooks obviously having a little video package as well tonight. I mean, that was a very good video package. I think it was good leading up to their match. We will get into their match because it was in the main event, so we'll definitely get into it. We saw Kendall Gray defeat Chantel Monroe in the main event of last week's Evolve to become the number one contender for the Women's Evolve Championship. Now we know we're going to be seeing Kendall Gray versus Callie Armstrong at Succession. We already knew these things, but this week, and shout out to Italian Pigeon, we say this every time, this is turning into a community. So we're going to be streaming every day on here. And Italian Pigeon says, didn't watch Evolve, so glad I can watch the recap. This is what it's for. It's obviously for people to chat and give their thoughts, but at the same time, it's for everybody to learn if you didn't watch about the show. But last week, if you didn't tune into that, Swipe Right defeated Kel Dixon and Uriah Connors from NXT Chase U with, obviously, Andre Chase at ringside, and that was big. Probably the biggest tag match of Evolve history, having NXT Superstars and NXT Tag Team and NXT Faction coming down to Evolve, facing the Swipe Right, a part of Vanity Project. So it was really cool to see. As well as Adrenaline Drip stepped up to the team of Jax and Harley. So that was really cool to see, and we got the match tonight. So let's hop into it. Kicked off the show with the match of Harley Riggins and Jax Presley versus Adrenaline Drip, Cappuccino Jones, and Jack Cartwheel. Great match, but we saw a major part of the match where I kind of got nervous. We saw Harley Riggins. He laid down on the ground and he told the ref he had a calf injury. We saw Cappuccino and Jack Cartwheel stand over there like, well, what is going on? And then we see Harley wink at his tag partner in Jax. He winks at him and he attacks Adrenaline Drip. Okay, I had mixed opinions about it. Yes, it is a smart move by Harley, but at the same time, I think that it is super sad to see this because we all know it's pre-recorded. So it's pre-recorded. We know he's not actually injured or that match would have been cut out. So you can't really do these things on Evolve, but you can do these things on a NXT, a Raw, a SmackDown, on a PLE, but just not on Evolve because we all know it is pre-recorded. So it was hard to watch that, but still a cool part of the match. We're going to see what Italian Pigeon says here. He says, low-key kind of hurts to see people from NXT who had potential wrestling on Evolve. Evolve is good and all, but at the end of the day, it's a downgrade, and that's kind of disappointing. Now, a little bit of a hot take on that. I think that, obviously, Evolve is the lowest brand in WWE. It's the lowest thing you can get. So, right now, I think that Evolve is very great, right? Evolve is super good. I think that Evolve is probably one of the best it's ever been, the best it's ever been, in my opinion. So I think it's cool to see you say here that it is a downgrade. But at the end of the day, I think that this is no shade to Monday Night Raw at all. Big hot take, and I don't expect anyone in the chat to agree with this. I think Evolve is better than Raw. Personal opinion, don't come at me because I watch Evolve weekly. And I enjoy sitting here for an hour watching Evolve rather than watching a 2 hour and 30-minute episode of Monday Night Raw that is just mediocre week in and week out. So, personal opinion. But we would then see Cappuccino and Jack pick up the victory with the flippin' sip. So pretty good to see them finally get a win. We know last week we saw them take an L, or the week before last we saw them take an L to Jackson Harley. So it was good to see them get their revenge here. So very cool to see that. Obviously, I think that one of the main things I was thinking about during this match, watching it, is who's a better in-ring wrestler? Cappuccino Jones or Jack Cartwheel? And Italian Pigeon, I want to know your thoughts. Who's better in ring? Cappuccino or Jack Cartwheel? I want to know. Because I personally think that, obviously we all know, Cappuccino, WWE ID champion, first ever ID champ, he is going to be somebody that you look at more than Jack Cartwheel. But in ring, I feel that Jack Cartwheel's better in the ring. He just doesn't have the eyes on him. And that's why I think it's so important to put him up with Cappuccino Jones, put him on that pedestal with Cappuccino being the hottest, I mean, literally the best men's ID prospect. So I think that definitely good to have Jack Cartwheel be there with Cappuccino. But overall, I do think Jack Cartwheel is just a tad bit better than Cappuccino Jones in ring. Obviously, very personal opinion because, in my opinion, I love the flippy stuff, and that's what Jack Cartwheel delivers. So that's what I would go with. We then would see Tate Wilder say that he is ready for the challenge against Idris Enofe, and then Sean Legacy would come up and give him some hype words. But in that match between Idris and Tate, we would see Idris obviously gets decent pops from the crowd, but it was sad knowing this is his last match. Now, do we know that this is officially his last match? No. But we know the video he let out this week. We know everything he let off this week, saying that he is done with WWE, that he had to think long and hard, and that it's been sitting on his mind for a while. So he's had this opinion and this thing that he's going to leave WWE in his brain just sitting, and that's never good to do with a serious decision like this, something that could be fully change the trajectory of your career, especially at the level of Idris Enofe. Now, I know I have not made a video on my thoughts on Idris Enofe saying that he is leaving WWE, but I think that it is pretty sad to see. Idris is obviously on the up end on his career in Evolve. He's obviously getting really close to a championship, getting close to the top guys in Evolve like Sean Legacy, being in these rivalries. I do want to go back to what we were talking about, Jack or Cappuccino, who's better in the ring. We have a hot take here, or I haven't read it. I don't know if it's a hot take. We're going to see. It's a really tough call, but I haven't watched Jack as much as live watched Cappuccino, so I can't really give a fair take, but based off what you said, I love flippy stuff too. So yeah, I think overall, Jack Hart was a better in-ring wrestler. Cappuccino's better as a character, but you don't normally, if you watch the Indies, you obviously know Jack and Cappuccino don't really get tag matches a lot together. Jack is very much allowed to be in 6-man tags most of the time. Sometimes he does get one-on-one matches, and that's always good to see. But hey, if y'all want a match to watch and y'all haven't watched it yet, I recommend watching Cappuccino Jones versus Jack Cartwheel for the WWE ID Championship to see who's going to be the first champion. Great match. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, great opener. But let's get into Idris versus Tate. Like I was saying, I hate that Idris is going. I think that this was his last Evolve. I think that we may see him next week, but it's very much of a shame. Just because of how deep we are into the rivalry of Idris Enofe and Sean Legacy. Them really making this tough call right here in this Tate Wilder versus Idris Enofe match is not good because Idris is not going to be able to be on Evolve anymore. He said he's done. So does he actually mean it? Is he actually done? I don't know. I really hope I'll be able to see him next week on Evolve. But if I'm not, that's too bad, man. He's done. So that'd very much suck. But during the match, we would see Tate defeat Idris, which is the best call, which made me think personally that WWE obviously knew that he was burnt out, he was done. But it doesn't make any sense because we saw Sean Legacy stop Idris from using a chair during this match. We saw Sean stop Idris from cheating. So obviously Idris being super mad at Sean to end this off. I think we definitely have a rivalry brewing, but Idris is saying he's done. So what does this mean? We'll have to find out for sure. But Jackson Drake would tell Bryce Donovan that he is the weak link. He's the weak link of the Vanity Project, which, if you know anything about Bryce Donovan, he is not going to take that at all. So he says he gets all angry at Jackson Drake, the Evolve Men's Champ. And Jackson, as soon as Bryce walks away, tells Zeta Steel, don't worry about it. I was just trying to motivate him. And we figure out that worked very well in the main event. But we'll obviously get to that whenever the time comes. We see Layla Diggs and Mason Holiday bring Wendy Chu, once again bringing that personality, the real personality of Wendy Chu out. We know she spoke her first words against Kendall Gray in the I Quit match, saying I quit to Kendall Gray, which would ultimately give Kendall the opportunity to go face Callie Armstrong and get that number one contenders match. But it was cool to see here because Wendy really brought up the character. There's a rivalry brewing. We would see obviously Layla and Mason talking to her, saying how they were going to make TikToks and how her hair looks so good. And Wendy was like, she was interested. She was interested in it. But then we would see Nikita Lyons come up. And Nikita, she would talk crap about Wendy again, and Wendy's not taking that. So Wendy says some words. If y'all want to find out what she said, y'all go watch Evolve, because I think they'll probably end my stuff here if I say it. But definitely a rivalry brewing, and there's nobody leaving in this situation. No superstars leaving, not Nikita or Wendy, as we see here. And I don't think they're going to leave because, man, what we're going to get is going to be special. You know, Wendy Chu obviously being a great talent in Evolve, Nikita Lyons being one of the best. It's going to be really cool to see. So, again, super exciting. We then see Callie Armstrong versus Carly Bright for the Evolve Championship. We see Kendall Gray come out with Carly being best buddies. So we see Carly and Callie go at it. We see Callie obviously destroy half the match and then obviously win. But what was really exciting about the match was seeing Kendall Gray talk smack on the outside, obviously building up the match. And I thought that was really cool. So I'm excited to see where that leads us. Next week, we have a face-to-face between Kendall Gray and Callie Armstrong to lead up to Succession. So really excited. That's going to be something to keep an eye out for. And in the main event, Keanu Carver would face Brooks Jensen in a number one contenders match to see who will go on to face Jackson Drake at Succession. Now, you think of the women's number one contenders was last week, so big setback. I don't think this is what they were going for, but it is cool to see because Evolve, you obviously have a short span to get your point across, so you only got like an hour. And this, I think tonight they used about 53 minutes, so not bad at all. Very good show. But right here was whenever it really got good because we would see Keanu face Brooks. Obviously, like I said, they are behind. Last week, the women got their number one contender out the way where they can fully get a good build in. But the match was solid tonight. And I don't think you can have two number one contenders in the same night because of how high caliber these superstars are. Brooks obviously being former NXT superstar. And obviously, Keanu Carver being the best in Evolve, one of the greatest talents in Evolve. So the match you already knew was going to cook. And I'd say it did. And to keep the rememberation of Jackson Drake firing up Bryce Donovan because it's going to come in play. We would see Keanu get a huge pop during the announcement from Kelly Kincaid, which, by the way, I did not write it down on the sheets here, but Kelly is impressing me. Her being on as an NXT interviewer backstage has been impressing me. She's been doing great work backstage, and people don't give backstage interviewers enough respect, but personally, I think that it's going to be pretty cool. We have another hot take from Italian Pigeon. He says it's a hot take. Let's see. I think that NXT has been the best weekly show since the Raw Netflix debut. See, that's a hot take. That's a hot take. You know, normally this is about the Evolve review, all that. But this is a hot take I'm intrigued in. Okay. So you say that you think that NXT has been the best weekly show since the debut of Netflix on Raw. Or Raw on Netflix. I think that WWE was definitely firing with Monday Night Raw. Those first couple of months on Netflix, they obviously died down. So I think you're right and wrong. I think that at the first few months, you're definitely wrong. I think that NXT was not better than Raw whenever it came to the first few months of on Netflix. But now, much recently, these past few months, NXT has been significantly better. But remember, whenever Netflix came to Raw and whenever Raw came to Netflix, I think that it was definitely close. NXT was right here, Raw was right here. I mean, there's just a little gap, but still think that NXT is better now. And I do think that Raw was better those first couple of months by just a few inches, but NXT quickly took over. And now with the great storylines we got going on in NXT, no doubt that it's better. But in the main event, like I said, Keanu versus Brooks. Big pop Keanu got. Fans are really behind Keanu, which would make me think that this next time around, we know Keanu, obviously, in that triple threat match, Brooks, Keanu, and Jackson. It's been those main three going against each other these past few weeks, and I think that now is going to be the time that Keanu is going to be the one to finally take the title off of Jackson Drake. In the match, we would see the Vanity Project keep getting or having a close eye on the match, which would already be a bit suspicious, but then we would see Keanu pick up the victory. And now comes Bryce Donovan. Bryce Donovan would come out with a chair and attack Keanu Carver, which not a big part of the night, just something to keep an eye on for sure. Bryce Donovan attacking him. So definitely seeing a bigger and badder side of both Keanu Carver and Bryce Donovan. But people are saying, wow, look at Bryce Donovan. Now he's going to be a real big superstar. If anything, they just woke up a different beast out of Keanu Carver, which will give him another reason to win the title next or 2 weeks from now. So I think it's going to be a big momentum pusher for Keanu. And one thing I want to say before we end off here is Keanu is great. And I think that us fans have pushed Keanu where he's going to win the championship at Succession. I think that tonight was a big eye-opener just because of how the fans popped for Keanu. So I think that that's going to be big. And you would think that the Evolve crowd at the Performance Center would pop for Brooks Jensen as well, due to the fact that he is a high-profile superstar, being former NXT star. So you would think they would pop. Not a lot of noise for Brooks Jensen, but Keanu got a significantly better pop. But let's hear Italian Pigeon's last hot take before we sign off. We see him say, the Netflix debut was the last really, really good Monday Night Raw. Raw has been dull since the Vision was formed, and SmackDown hasn't really been the same since it moved to USA. I also think the TNA crossover is significantly helping. Yes, like I said, obviously, SmackDown and Raw has been mediocre, but at the same time, SmackDown's better than Raw right now. I do think that eventually Raw will step up their game, but I do disagree with it became mediocre whenever the Vision was formed. Remember, now it's obviously very, very boring seeing the Vision, Braun, and Bronson in main events every week. That's so boring, but whenever it was first formed, it was cool to see them as a tag team, and I think that wasn't boring. But I hope you all enjoyed this Evolve review. I know we got a little bit sidetracked talking about this Netflix debut, but it was really cool to see. I was super excited to do this, and I'm glad that we got 20 minutes out of this, so that's really cool. But this is going to be going up on YouTube for Italian Pigeon in the Chat and much others. So without further ado, hope y'all enjoyed this. Come back for more videos, and I'll see y'all boys in the next one. Deuces.